Hi everyone and welcome back to the UploadVR Gamescast. Just to let you know, we've had some technical troubles this week and our voices sound quite robot-y. Yes, I know this happened a couple of weeks ago. It's a different issue this time. We're hoping it won't be an issue next week. Please enjoy the show, and if you're a Dalek, you're welcome. Hello everyone and welcome back to the UploadVR Gamescast. It is great to see you today. I am one of your hosts, Jamie Feltham, and joining me as always is the one, the only, the very fantastic Harry Baker. How are you?
Hello. What an introduction. Yes, I'm good. How are you, Jamie? I've been a bit under
Doing
the
alright.
weather, but I'm here. I'm ready to discuss. Lots to discuss today, man. Lots of games. We've hit the halfway point.
Yeah, we're over. Well, I guess we're kind of near
I guess
halfway through the year
yeah.
now. Oh wait,
Yeah.
today's actually the halfway point, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
the
today's
very
the
center of the
30th.
year.
So this is
Yeah.
it. This is.
My God.
Yep.
And
So
and
we've got
because of
like
that,
a million games to that have to come out in the next 6 months, supposedly.
oh my goodness, you're right, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of that, we'll be going through what's coming out in the second half of the year a little later in the year. Before we get to any of that, we must, as always, thank our members. They are Sampler19, Stephen Reynolds, Captain Clutch, Jerome Richardson, James at Loud, Anthony Man Wexford, Robert Canonas ×2, Handy Panama, Andrew Tech, Skeever007, Sexy Bicycle, Matthew May, Rick Tet, 360 Pickable, Smash Reality, Adam Hartzell, and John Westra. Thank you so much for your support week in, week out. It really, really does mean the world to us.
That was a pretty smooth one.
Yeah. I had
You
a
got
couple
through
of
that
weeks
pretty
off
well.
as well, so just kind of
Yeah, you just kind of had to get back into
riding
it.
those waves, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy breezy.
Mm-hmm.
I got no
Yeah.
like special segments for you this week, so what you been up to recently? Anything
What have I been
interesting?
up to? I've been playing some stuff. I also actually one VR interesting thing I did, which was interesting, was that I can't remember if I think I spoke about it on the show, but a couple of weeks ago I tried Zero Latency. I went over there to try out their new system with the kind of Wi-Fi 6 wireless stuff, no backpacks. That was fun. I didn't get to finish the Far Cry one at the time because someone else had to come through. They had like actual customers who had booked a session, so we got kind of booted out. And they were like, "Oh, sometime in the next few weeks, come back." And because they had said to me, bring a few friends. Obviously, it's multiplayer.
Yeah.
And when you don't have people, they just kind of chuck stuff in who are hanging around. So they were like, come back in a few weeks and bring like a few of your friends, and you can finish off the Far Cry one. So last night, I actually went back with a few friends, did the full kind of Far Cry thing. The Far Cry one is really fun.
Oh, really?
I actually really enjoyed it, and it's because I think it's done by End Dreams. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
developed
so
it.
because some of the other ones that they've got there are like developed in house or whatever, which I think they're trying to move away from now, which are like still fun, but this one really felt like it kind of understood VR a bit better. Like it puts you in kind of there's some shooting, there's some walking through cool areas with like hallucinating things. There's then they use the hallucination kind of stuff to put people in weird positions, like enemies spawning upside down, and you're kind of looking around and
Oh, that's cool.
kind of cool inventive things like that.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed. It was really fun, and it's a good kind of like high score because it's not like you're playing against each other. So it was like whoever gets the high score. So it's just kind of like you and your friends competing for who can get the most like headshots and stuff. So it's good fun. I think the wireless system works remarkably better than I thought it would, given that it's just running off Wi-Fi 6 routers from a
It's a
PC somewhere in the room.
Is it a Focus 3 they're using these days, or
It
is
is,
it?
yeah, which is actually a
Yeah.
really good and comfortable headset to like put on in seconds for that kind of thing. I was really surprised at that too. Even weirdly, I thought like easier in that environment. It felt like easier than a Quest 2 even, just because of the way that the strap is. It was like, oh, it just kind of puts on my head. Everything felt kind of properly, like the wristband, the band on top felt right. Everything was like, oh, I just put it on, I tighten the back. It's got headphones that sit in the right spot automatically. It felt kind of just like a solid thing to put on, and there's none of that kind of like backpack business anymore of like, wires running places and stuff. It's just like the gun peripheral and the headset, which is really nice. So
That's
it's really cool. Yeah,
They have some sites in London, but I never got to try it out back when I lived down there. But I would definitely
yeah,
like to see the Far Cry thing. Like it's based on the world of Far Cry 3, right?
3, yeah. And the
That's the
kind of
best
main
one,
villain,
so.
I can never remember his name. It
Thus.
keeps popping up. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Keeps popping up and kind of teasing you throughout it and stuff. Yeah,
Oh, very cool. Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know you'd done that. I would like to. Yeah, I'd definitely like to try that.
yeah,
At some point in the future, and
yeah.
maybe
It's
we'll
cool.
get some more impressions on the site at some point. Like, you
Yeah,
think?
we
Like a
can.
little
Yeah, on
review?
the Far Cry one.
That'd be
Yeah,
good.
sure. Yeah, I did.
Cool.
I did do impressions on the general zero
Yeah.
latency thing, but it'd be good to get some Far Cry stuff up. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we can look forward to that in the future. Other things we will be looking forward to in the future are new games coming our way. Actually, not that far in the future. Very, very soon. We have some
Yeah.
release dates, new release dates to talk about this week, and I think they're all pretty much for next week, aren't they?
Yep, it happened again. It's like here are a couple
Yeah.
of games, and they're coming right now.
You got nothing going on? Oh yeah. Well, turns out you got to clear your weekend schedule because
Yeah.
these are all happening.
Mhm.
Let's start with PatchWorld, which is a new music VR simulator type game.
You know what I thought
Which
this morning, Jamie? I rolled out of bed this morning and I was like, you know what? I wish I had a underwater reggae techno music creator for my VR headset. And I went, oh my god, PatchWorld! This is it's totally
Yeah.
filled that void. Where did this come from?
this is
It's a shame the music
literally
doesn't play in our studio because wow, it's something.
oh yeah, it's all just very weirdly blurry techno, isn't it? That you're like,
Yeah, like
okay.
reggae techno. It looks like, the Little Mermaid, went on a acid trip with the metaverse
exactly.
and then,
You
a reggae dude.
you think, oh, making music under the sea, I know exactly what I'm gonna make, but
It's clamshells. No,
there's
it's not that.
there's no steel drums or anything.
No,
Which
it's just full boop boop and like reggae beats.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of at the point where we've got enough of these, right? Like, didn't Virtuoso do it pretty well? Electronauts did it pretty well.
As you kind of said too, it's kind of a bit weird because I would have thought Virtuoso I think is good because it's kind of this ambiguous setting one where it's just like it is just like a music creator. This is set underwater, but yet does not seem to really create any music that I saw in the trailer that I would associate with being underwater. So it kind of just felt like they were like, let's put it underwater. And they're like, yeah, underwater is cool.
Yeah.
And then these guys love techno and reggae. I was like, I don't know, but who knows? I mean, yeah, is this Quest?
Yeah, this is Quest.
Yeah.
This is on the Quest store.
Right.
Which I was
Interesting.
surprised to learn.
Yeah.
It's that I went to the website and it's like we're creating a music metaverse, and it's like, oh, okay, there's the end
yeah, because it's like shout out to all the people in the metaverse in the trailer and whatever. Yeah. I think we're getting to the point now with this curation stuff on the Oculus store where they will accept something like this to give variety to a certain genre, whereas it used to just be like there was a quality threshold almost. Not to say this is bad, but there was like a quality threshold. And it feels like with this and a few others I've seen that fill other genres, or there's like one game from one genre and they're like, oh, this other thing has come along so that can go out too, so that it's not just one type of thing. It feels like that's happening more and more. I don't know.
Well, I also feel like there's an element of, well, we've got to approve something for the Quest store at some point.
Yeah, something's got to come out in.
Nothing's really coming out at the moment, so we got to have new
Yeah.
content coming in some shape and form.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
we'll
like,
approve 4 things for next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This doesn't really speak to me at all,
No.
to be honest with you. Like, yeah, maybe it's good. Maybe if you're a musician, you can get in there and find some level of intricacy. But there's also 2 other apps for it already, and I don't want to be the weird electro avatar thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just giving me bad vibes, man. Bad
Understandable.
vibes. Onto things that give us slightly better vibes. Actually, in the list, I'm going to skip over to Thief Simulator, which is coming to Quest next week. It's called
Yes.
Thief Simulator.
Have you played
Green
the PSVR one of this?
I haven't, but I think it's still in early access on PC, and I think people are quite happy with it. It's one of those ones where there's a certain publisher out there that has a load of games with simulator in the title, and eventually they'll find their way into VR, because there's a flat screen version of this too.
Yeah, I know that developer has got so many simulators. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and the trailer for this is only on the Oculus store at the moment, I think, so we can't really find it. But it's not a terribly inspiring trailer. It's like very basic Unity asset store, like NPC models where you're like, okay, it's PS2 days.
Well, from what I'd seen too, of like you said, with all the different simulator games, they all look kind of vaguely similar, probably because they're using the same assets, like those kind of Unity assets and stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised too when this was coming out, because I remember kind of knowing it belonged to that genre. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess seeing as I've never played it, that the only thing it can really do is make up for it in terms of gameplay, right? Like I like the idea that it's completely non-violent, so you can't break in and like hurt anyone, which I think is totally the right course of action for a game like this.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, if there's interesting mechanics and good stealth mechanics to it, that's very physical and unique to VR, then cool, I'd be interested in it. But if you watch the trailer, this is what people in the industry call a bull shot, where they've clearly touched up the screenshot to make it look a little better than it actually does in the game. But if you watch the trailer, you can probably make up your mind for yourself. It's in the coming soon section of the Quest store right now.
Is it
We'll
coming
see.
soon with the date? I can't remember if it had a. Is it one of the ones like this week or something?
It's this week or next week,
Yeah, right.
July 7th.
Okay.
Prepare, charge your quests,
Alright.
everyone.
Interesting.
Speaking of July 7th, finally we also know the release date for Ruinsmagus, which is the
Yes.
kind of very interesting Japanese developed dungeon crawler. You sit in a small town settlement that's just outside some giant ruins. You play as a member of the titular guild, and you go into the ruins with your kind of magic powers and defeat a bunch of like ancient enemy robots, gather resources, come out, get new missions, go back in and keep working with it. And I've played this. I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed this. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet, but like,
Yeah, I don't think you talked. I read your article not so long ago, and you were like, "Yeah, it was quite deep, almost." Was that? Yeah.
it's a way deeper game than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I think I was kind of expecting. Sometimes you get like there's VR anime adaptations out there, like there's those Spice and Wolf games, which are literally just they're very polished, but they're literally just 20-minute scenes that you watch over and over again.
Yeah.
And they still cost like $40, and it's like, oh wow, what a ripoff. I was kind of thinking we were probably going to get, seeing as you know we'd never really heard of the developer before, even though I do think they have other games, um, and how polished it was looking. I was like, there's something's got to be off here. This seems too good to be true. But nope, turns out it's pretty promising looking. So you have really great mechanics in terms of the enemies have like these giant projectiles that you can physically dodge, and sometimes like they just shoot straight towards you, and you can lean out of the way. Sometimes they even like zigzag, so it's like really hard to predict where they're coming from. The gesture-based system for magic and everything works really, really well. It's the only thing I've got against it right now is even though the gesture-based system works really well, it's not entirely intuitive in the control scheme. Sometimes it's like, yeah, the grip button does this, the trigger button does this, but this grip button does this, and this trigger button does this, and
Yeah.
try and remember all four of them at
Too
once,
many,
and what the A and B and X and Y buttons do at the same time, and you're like, even though you've done probably as good of a job as you could do with everything you're trying to enable in the controls,
Yeah, it's still a bit
this is
confusing.
a little finicky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to this one. I have hopes. This is the game next week that I'm most
excited for out of the four or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally we have American Dream, which is a blast from the past for many long-time VR followers. This was such a great concept when this was first announced. Like it came out in 2018, but I think it was announced in like 2017. It is a satirical VR game in which America uses guns to do everything. So you always have a pair of guns or like a rifle or something attached to your hands, and then like you go to work and your job is to shoot holes in bagels, or you're like cleaning up and you have to like shoot the cupboards closed, or you're going fishing and you're using a rifle instead of a fishing
It's like
rod.
what the bat, but what the gun and satirical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's such a interesting, funny, unique take on what is a very, very now more than ever, like interesting issue that I wish people would pay more attention to, and maybe this is a great way to get people to actually look into this stuff, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's a lot of potential to draw your mind to this in a different way because of the physicality of it. I think it's one of those. It reminds me of stuff that they've done on like talking about climate change and stuff like that, and building empathy and being in VR and seeing things from a different perspective. So it'd be interesting. I had not even heard of this, even though obviously it's an old game, and then I was like, oh, this is a PC VR game and PSVR originally as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be cool. Is it very
just
long?
came out at that time. No, I think it's only a couple of hours. It was David that reviewed it back in the day, so I've only ever played a bit of it. I haven't played the full thing. But it's one of those games that just came out in the PC era, kind of did its thing, and then went away. And I assumed we'd seen the last of it.
But here we go.
Yeah, and the developer, Samurai Cowboys or something like that. They're like a proper solid team that have done some really good flat screen games as well. Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping this works out for them.
This was only ever VR though, right? There's not a flat screen.
Yeah, no, there's no flat screen version. Yeah. Samurai Punks before it comes up, before the developer comes up.
There we go.
Samurai Cowboys, that would be a great name as well.
Good bad name.
But yeah, those are all out next week, so it's been a bit of a content drought.
Where did that come from?
Here you go.
Man, they did it to us again.
Yeah.
It
hasn't been too bad, but again, something we didn't really get to talk about with the showcase and myself going on holiday and everything like that. Something we missed this month but Mother Gunship was actually a great game that came out on like the 16th. Maybe we did review that. I forget. Oh, okay.
We did talk about that like a little bit. You gave like impressions. I don't think maybe you had finalized review, but we talked about it last week, I think.
Yeah, I get the sense that if you do the thing where you look at the user review ratings on the Quest store, I get the sense it probably hasn't sold that well, and I think that's probably because people look at it and think, oh, it's another wave shooter. But if you are looking at it and thinking, oh, it's another wave shooter, I still say you should really go and give that game a try. I've been back to it this week as well while I've been testing stuff out, and there's not many VR games where I just lose an hour.
I actually want to go and give it a try because I really like. Me and my housemate not too long ago were playing in Death Unchained, just the wave mode. And that was really fun to pass and play, kind of have it up on the TV and just watch each other play.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
And so I feel like it'd be the similar kind of thing of just kind of, it'd be fun just to sit around and watch each other build the guns. And so I'd love to give that a try. That's definitely, next time I'm, sitting down, I'll give that a good go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Moving away from the Oculus Quest 2, or oh my goodness, I've done it, Meta Quest 2 for a minute. We have a picture of PlayStation VR 2 out in the wild, which I think is very, very funny. Last night in UK hours, BitPlanet Games, the developer of Ultra Wings 2, tweeted a picture of PSVR 2 and kind of with a hint that the game was coming to the platform. Yeah, it said, guess what's coming to PSVR 2?
PSVR 2.
Only. And a picture of the headset.
Some people have said this is I'm pretty sure people have even said there in replies. I haven't double checked, but in replies they were like, "It's a 3D model," or something.
This is like not fake.
No, this looks like someone's put it on I think too. It's the framing for me. It's like on this desk chair, slightly wonky photo, weird angle. It's like they just chucked it there and been like, "Take a photo" on like the Twitter app.
Yeah.
So but we'll go to the close up now, so you can really look at the.
It's been. I mean, the tweet has since been deleted because I looked at that on my smartphone in the cinema lobby and thought,
"You're like, how long is that going to stay there?"
Yeah, that's not staying there for long.
It's back up with a generic image now of just the promo PSVR 2 image that we've all seen. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty telling.
So for starters, I'm very glad that Ultra Wings 2 is coming to PSVR 2 because Ultra Wings 2 maybe still my favorite game of the year. Maybe.
Really? Is that your your favorite? I'm surprised. I mean, I know you loved it, but
I think isn't it the only game I've given an essential this year? Personally,
I guess so. Maybe, yeah. So that makes sense.
I could be wrong, but it's still in the running, that's for sure. So I've seen other PSVR 2 dev kits, which I'm allowed to say, and they were all earlier ones that were completely black. So this was all like black and hexagonal, and then these are like. These didn't have the white casing because I think when we first saw the Sense controllers, they were just black, weren't they? There wasn't.
No, I think they were always white and black.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
And then you get to see the single cable that comes with it.
Yeah,
which is just one USB-C.
Looks like a solid cable.
Running. Yeah, you can see it running from the back of the headset round underneath the controllers and coming over here. And there's no breakout box, which is great.
And this is the left controller, right? So I'd be holding that like that. Is that right? For audio viewers, I'm now
Yeah,
chucking my hand up against the screen as if
I
I'm
think
pretending to hold
so.
a controller. I think so, right? Because a bit like a Rift
Yeah,
controller, you're
because
holding
you
it,
wouldn't.
and you have your thumbstick there. So yeah, it would make
Yeah,
so it kind of like runs on the outer sides of your hands, almost the rings. It looks like, or yeah,
I think
interesting.
this picture starts to give you an idea, but from what I've seen, these controllers are actually a lot smaller than what you realise from the promotional photos. They are actually very snugly fit around your
Do you
hand. It's
think
not
that?
like
Because
this
to me they
giant
look bigger
orb
than
that's
I
like a
thought.
boxing glove. Really?
Well, I
I
mean, look
think
at the size of this thing, the ring,
yeah,
compared to the headset.
true,
It looks almost as big as the headset, but it could be
true.
the perspective making that look bigger than it is. Also, what's this little like dial on the top left side of the headset? Is that
That is a great question. I
because it?
think that's the IPD dial.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it IPD?
I
Did,
think
did
they've
we
already.
did we did someone did they come out with specs saying it had IPD adjustment? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so then
That's a
that would
confirmed
surely
thing.
be it. That was the other thing about the Vive Focus 2 that was really good. The 3 is that it had IPD dial on the bottom, which they
Oh,
described
nice.
as a focus slider. But I was like, okay, it's IPD because it says when
Yeah,
you do it. So that was lovely.
yeah.
But yeah, that's cool.
That's a good attempt at on-brand renaming, though.
Yeah, I was
A
like, well, it kind
focus
of does
light.
make sense, like
Nice
focus,
try.
because you kind of do move it to be like, oh, okay, it's in focus now. Like, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
So that's another game confirmed for PSVR 2. Which
yep,
I need to update that list because I haven't put Ghostbusters on there either. I don't think yet.
yep,
But the library's
yep.
getting pretty good.
Yeah,
Ultra Wings.
especially if everything, I'm starting to get the sense that maybe, hopefully, this is like quarter 1 next year. There's quite a few things that just kind of launch on it from immediately from the get go, which I think would be really cool. If like Ultra Wings
Yeah.
2, even like if Ghostbusters was on there at launch, I think that'd be really awesome.
Mm.
Like if you had like a solid, 10 really big things that have come out, even if they're not PSVR 2 exclusive, if they're like in the last year they came out,
Yeah.
so they all feel very fresh to people who maybe picked up VR a couple of years ago and dropped off or whatever. That'd be cool.
My one of the things I'm starting to think about, because I think it's just basically at this point confirmed that any developer that's still got skin in the game and isn't meta exclusive or anything
Yeah,
basically wants to be on this thing, right? And wants to
yeah,
bring their old good games to it and new projects to it as well. The interesting thing for me is going to be PlayStation doesn't have the same strict curation that Quest 2 does.
mm,
And how are we going to see a decent balance of those new projects that are actually worthwhile coming out every week, and also
yeah,
the kind of crappy made in five
yeah.
minutes stuff? Or
Mm.
is it like, are they going to manage that balance well, basically? And is the existence of that software also going to suffocate some of the other games on
Do you think
PSVR
that
2
they
a
would
little?
maybe be a bit stricter about it in what they let on specifically for PSVR 2? They might have different rules for that than they do for like PS4 or PS5 stuff. I mean, it seems unlikely, but
Only from a technical perspective. I know for PSVR
yeah,
1, Sony was very strict with you have to hit this frame rate. If you
yeah,
don't hit this
yeah,
frame rate, you're not getting on our
which is
store
good.
and everything like that.
Yeah,
But in terms of like, I expected there to be stricter curation right from the start with PS5, but pretty much straight away you were getting the
it's
same like
true.
clone 2D platformers and
Very
everything that were
true.
actual
And stuff
native
that you just
PS5
never heard
games.
of, and you're just like, why is this in the PS5 section? That's true. So yeah, I
Yeah,
guess if they're not doing it for PS5, you wouldn't expect it for this, I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of PSVR 2 games, we have some new information on Horizon Call of the Mountain, probably the biggest, most anticipated. Well, I'd say it's the most anticipated PSVR 2 game announced so far. I'm
Probably.
certainly very, very excited. There's been
Yeah.
a lot of speculation about Call of the Mountain and if it's actually going to be a game. So we know it's a spin off to the mainline series. We know you play as a different character from Aloy, but still engage in very similar mechanics. There's climbing, there's bow and arrow, there's obviously the robot dinosaurs. Um, and a lot of the footage we've seen so far has been set on a boat, so people are like, "Oh, is this just going to be an on rails experience with like no free locomotion?" But out on the PlayStation website this week, there was an update to the game's page that said you actually explore multiple paths in the game.
Yeah.
So I think this is interesting for 2 points. First of all, it confirms that this isn't just a linear on rails experience, which a lot of people have
Mm.
been fearing. But that wording also suggests to me that we're not getting like an open world where you can go anywhere you want at any point,
It's
right? And like,
interesting. It kind of places it very like distinctly in this thing of like it's not just going to be you going on a boat. and it's
Yeah.
also not going to be like you can go wherever. You've got options, which is like I feel like a very specific
Yeah.
wording that they've chosen. Yeah.
It seems like a good place to be with for VR right now. I don't really know why you do a giant open world in VR right now
No.
without, unless you're like designing every square inch specifically for the platform. But that is like a massive undertaking. It's the same reason why
Yeah.
the rumors and the reports suggest that Assassin's Creed VR won't be open world but open ended wide levels. That's what I'd expect to get
Yeah.
here.
But what does
You know.
that is that? I was just going to say, do you think when they say open paths, do they mean like there's, I don't know, 10 levels and you can choose which way you go in a couple of them and you can do one thing and then play it again and do a different
Mm,
kind of path through it? Or do you think they mean you're going through a level a bit like I suspect Assassin's Creed, or I hope Assassin's Creed will be,
mm.
but you're going through a level and you can kind of choose different approaches to the same goal.
I
And
think
by
it's
paths,
that.
they just mean like, they just mean like you can go left and go through the forest or go right and go through the wood and you're not really going to go and play the whole game again,
Yeah, but
yeah.
you don't feel like you were just being
You're just
strung
going
along
down
the
one
same
path.
path
Yeah.
with no
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah.
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 No, I think it's going to be, between fights, you're going to have different ways of, maybe it's like even someone's like, oh, well, you can get to this objective by using stealth, or you can get to this objective by like just going in the front door,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which could be an interesting way to approach it.
It'd be
So
interesting if this ends up being like comparable to Assassin's Creed in like
yeah,
kind of scope and even like gameplay. Even it could feel
yeah,
like
that's a
they're
good point.
two different approaches because I hadn't even considered that at all because they seem like so different. But that they're starting to sound more similar from what we know of both. The very limited information we have of both. So
And
yeah,
and it, to that point, it would also be interesting to see if Assassin's Creed is what Meta kind of uses to fight back against the PSVR 2
yeah,
launch, right? If they're like,
yeah.
okay, well, that's cool and all, but here's our exclusive all new Assassin's Creed game, which hopefully is pushing the platform
Mm.
in ways you haven't seen before, right?
Oh, just imagine if they like announce the release date for this or something, or PSVR 2, and they're like, and every PSVR 2 gets this included, which is not going to happen. But imagine if it
Yeah,
did, and then Meta were just like, oh, Assassin's Creed is out today. Enjoy. I love
that
when
could be really
companies do
cool.
that, like that
Well,
and that
yeah,
almost
we
makes
haven't
the
really seen
silence
that
feel
yet.
worth it when you just do
Yeah,
that when you get the kind of like they're clearly waiting for each other to
yeah,
announce something and then you play off against each other. I love that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Um,
And we haven't really seen that yet much.
competition.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
so that'd be
good
cool.
stuff.
Yeah.
Back to Quest.
Yeah.
Little Cities. The hand tracking update is out today. Have
Yes.
you played this? The hand tracking.
I haven't played the hand tracking one. No, I didn't get access to the build. But beforehand, I haven't had access to the build yet. But it comes out at 10 a.m. PST.
I'm definitely
So
jumping into that.
I think by the time this episode goes live, it should be live.
Yeah.
But yeah, I talked to James from Purple Yonder. There's an interview on the
Yes.
site you can look at. It looks really actually quite cool, and it looks like it'll work really well. The stuff that you expect to kind of this is actually controller footage, but
Mm.
it looks so similar you actually kind of can't tell because that was what we were saying about that interface and everything. It works in a way that
Designed for
feels
it.
like you're
Yeah.
using your hands. So you do a lot of those like bubble popping and the watch and that kind of stuff just kind of automatically works with your hands. Then as you would expect, the pinching is the same. You can pinch and drag and whatever. And then they've basically got cool little workarounds for like moving. You use like fists and like drag. And then there's stuff like you do like a steering wheel motion to like rotate.
Yeah.
And you move your hands apart to zoom, and that's
That's
pretty
very
much
cool.
like it. I don't think there's much else that you need to do. I'm just really interested in this as a like barometer of the other end of the hand tracking scale. Like I think Unplugged is now kind of the higher end of like, wow, hand tracking 2.0 is really useful for that. It's very fast, you know,
Mm.
intense movement. I'm really keen to see how this plays with hand tracking 2.0 because it's a very slow game and also very precise.
Yeah.
Because I think Unplugged does a lot of stuff to compensate for like you can be a bit off and it kind of knows that and compensates. So it'll be interesting to see if how much I get frustrated at doing stuff with this and being like, oh, it's in the wrong spot or like I didn't mean to do that kind of thing. I think it'd be really interesting as a hand tracking to
Yeah, it's that
experience.
precision for sure that I'm going to be interested to see. Am
Yeah,
I going to be making loads of different mistakes? Because I think, like you said, I think the UI is just perfect for it. But
yeah,
am I going to be making loads of different little mistakes, or is this actually going to be quite accurate? That's going to make
Yeah.
or break it
Like
for
I'm
me.
worried I'm going to draw a straight line of a road and then it'll wobble a bit and it'll make a little like, indent and I'll be like, oh no, I have to undo it and do it again. That's the kind of stuff I don't want happening. So I
Yeah.
think that'll be interesting to check it out. So no, it should be out. I'm very keen to try that. Yeah, seems like the perfect game for it, really.
Sticking with End Dreams, I reported a bit of a scoop yesterday where I was on Reddit, and End Dreams was celebrating the second birthday of what I think is still my favorite End Dreams game, Phantom Covert Ops, the stealth tactic game, which if you haven't checked that out before, it's as wild as it sounds. And they actually, in the comments for that, noted that they are not working on a sequel to Phantom right now,
Interesting.
which I
Are you
guess
surprised?
I'm not really, even though it seems like between all the different teams they've got right now, they probably have the capacity to make it somewhere. Like I feel like outside of Ghostbusters VR, they probably have two other big projects boiling away at the main
Yeah.
studio and then at the Elevation studio. Plus they have Orbital, I think it's called, which is their like live service studio, which is
Yep.
but I feel like if they're getting the kind of attention that you get from Ghostbusters, even though they probably want to or very much had plans to make a sequel to Phantom Covert Ops, if Metro come along and said, "Hey, let's make another one,"
Yeah.
it feels probably like they've probably got bigger partnerships to pursue now and
Yeah.
hopefully bigger fish to fry.
I think I don't know the way I interpret like original VR IP sequels at the moment. I'm like I don't know where they stand. I'm not sure I've ever like seen one that has my reaction to seeing the sequel to like a kind of I don't know if you call this like mid-level game, but it's not like it was a game that everyone was talking about, or I don't know where it's what I mean. It's not wasn't huge, and then you kind of go, oh, if they did like a Phantom 2,
Hmm.
I don't know if anyone kind of reacts not like badly to it, but I don't know if anyone reacts well to it either. It's just kind of like, oh, it's that again. Which
Yeah,
I feel like happens sometimes with a few of these sequels I've seen, where it's like, oh, it's this. Like, I think one of the ones similar is like Aspire 2. I think actually looks really
yeah, I was
good
going to
as a
say that.
sequel, but I'm worried that people will just look at it and be like, oh, it's like Aspire. You kind of get it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't, almost because it's like
Yeah,
people will be like, oh, I want a sequel, and then you do a sequel, and they're like, oh, it's just a sequel.
I
I don't
was
know. It's in this weird spot. I feel like the sequel of like specifically VR specific new IPs.
I was really surprised by the reaction to both that and Red Matter 2 in the Oculus showcase a couple
Yeah,
of months ago. Because to me, those were big wins in the showcase. I was like, oh, two original,
yeah.
fantastic VR games that are getting proper sequels. And I think people are going to be really delighted. And then as they debuted in the chat, I was looking and the chat just didn't care as much as I thought they would.
I feel like sometimes people say they want this stuff and then it happens, and they're like, oh, yeah, cool. Like
Yeah, I'm not actually
it's
going to buy it
it's
though.
very easy to be like, oh, I'd love a sequel to this, and you see it, and you're like, oh, it's a sequel.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
and I feel like it only really works at the moment when you've got a big like existing IP attached to it. I can't even think of any
Yeah.
examples, but when
Well,
they've made a
it's
bit like if they had a Ghostbusters and they did a Ghostbusters 2 or whatever, or that kind of stuff.
I think the big ones right now are obviously we had Moss Book 2 earlier in the year, but even that felt muted at
Yeah,
its launch.
yeah.
But then obviously coming up is Bone Lab and Saints and Sinners Part 2. Those are the
Mm.
first two real big tests of that, I think.
I think too. I think the approach you should take if you're going to do this is a bit like the kind of Marvel approach when they did the Phase 1 movies and they were like, none of the movies are being called blah blah 2
Yeah,
because then it
yeah,
implies that you're kind of connected to the first one. You just give it a subtitle because even like
yeah,
Walking Dead is like Chapter 2, but it's like Retribution, and that's the
yeah.
big kind of focus of it. And what was the other one you just said that's floating in my head now?
Bone Lab.
Of course, Bone Lab is not Boneworks, right? It's Bone Lab, and
Yeah,
it implies that you don't have to. Because the thing is, too, even with Moss Book 2, I mean, you probably with that in that circumstance, you would play the first one probably, and then the second one. But with these
yeah,
games now, like if they said Phantom 2, I'd be like, oh, do I have to play Phantom 1? I think it
that's
also
true.
gets a bit like Red Matter 2. It's like, oh, and that's kind of more narrative based. So you go, oh, well, if I haven't played Red Matter 1, am I going to go? I think kind of it almost muddies the like because I'm pretty sure with most of these sequels like Red Matter 2 or whatever, you could probably just play the second one and it wouldn't matter. We're not at a point where like
Yeah,
these games are so complex that you know you're gonna be
yeah.
hugely missing out on stuff. So it's kind of weird because I feel like the number kind of damns you in some ways.
I remember Heaney putting it in an interesting way once, where he said, "Well, in his opinion, VR needs less apps, not more. You know, VR
Mm,
needs like this tightly curated library of titles that keep expanding, like we see with Population One or anything like that.
yeah,
It needs stuff where you have a great base that is so good and so compelling and so immersive that people basically just keep coming back to it time and time again,
yeah,
and you expand from there rather than following the traditional gaming model of
yeah,
here's a second, here's a third."
yeah.
Um, and I think that's interesting. I kind of agree, but also I don't think anyone's really cracked that yet in terms of like single player experiences.
No,
You're talking like Fortnite or Apex Legends or whatever, that's fine. That's easy to do. That's exactly how those types of games work.
yeah,
But for something like Phantom, I don't know how, if you wanted to do more content for it, I don't know how 2 years later you'd still be doing either free or paid
yeah.
DLC
That's the thing
and
too. Is I feel
making a
like when they
bunch
do
of
that, when
money.
people have tried that, it feels like it gets lost in the like if they came out with this and said, yeah, there's a big update coming to Phantom, adding like I don't know 6 new levels or whatever.
Mm,
It doesn't really feel like it had, to me. Even of just saying that, I'm like, it does. It almost doesn't feel
yeah,
like it has an impact. So it's this weird kind of like
yeah.
because some games have done that stuff where it's like 2 years later they've been like, here's some more stuff, and it's
Yeah, and
this weird
Bomok's got
kind
like
of
maybe a year and a half worth of like significant updates,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
which is true.
mm,
But yeah,
interesting,
I hope
difficult spot.
I hope we get to see a sequel in the future, but that's going to depend entirely on just how busy those teams are going forward and if they ever find time for it, basically. But I think it's great, and if you like the idea or if you want more kayak stuff, Kayak VR comes out on July
No,
12th as well.
but that's purely kayaking. It's
Yeah,
no,
there's no shooting
it's
people
no
in that one. It's
stealth.
just
They
be
should
good at
really,
kayaking.
they should join teams, get the graphics and the beauty in the kayaking, and then they can just do the stealth stuff and just try and like merge it together because the
Well, that's
kayak
yeah.
one looks beautiful.
Maybe kayak could go in that direction in the future as well. Like put more of those great
It's not
elements
like
in.
we haven't realized, but the kayak VR people are just like four XN Dreams employees who are like, we really loved we really loved making the kayak and
Screw
go
you,
with us,
man.
but they're not gonna make us do a sequel. We're gonna leave and start a kayak VR game. We're taking the
They certainly
IP,
had they certainly have the
the secret kayak
expertise.
code.
Moving on to our final bit of kind of newsy bit slash impressions for the week. One's Alliance or One's Alliances, I think, is out today. I think
Yeah,
it's Alliances. We'll find out in a
I
trailer in
think
a
it's
second, I'm sure.
alliances. Yes.
And this is the sequel to the original ones from Cortopia Studios, which is a 1v1 Magic dueling game. And this is a 3v3 Magic dueling game.
Hmm.
Harry, you've been able to play a bit before launch, but just
Yeah.
with bots, right?
Well, to my understanding, it was only bots. I tried to clarify, but I didn't get a response from the team. But yeah, I'm pretty certain it was bots because it was like one of those situations where all my teammates and the other team had like similar names. Like
Oh,
it was like
okay, yeah.
something like Inquisitor something and Inquisitor this, and I was like, I don't think this is hiding the names of my teammates. I think this is just giving me bots, and they were
Yeah.
acting kind of strange. So like after like a match, I put it together, and I was like, oh, I think I've not got into an actual game here because there was like play like certain hours they'll like come in and try and play, but I didn't. Whether it's because also sometimes when I'm in Australia, I think sometimes servers become a problem and stuff like that. So I don't know, but so I think I've only played with bots, but it at least gave me a chance to try out like the spells and see how it works. It's actually a really I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the concept. I kind of went into it being like, I don't know if I'm going to really get into this. I think it
Mm.
could be a lot of fun with actual people I came away being like, okay, I'd really want a lot more space than I kind of not. I have like two VR setups where I can do like, oh, this isn't going to use much space, and I can just kind of keep my stuff where it is, or I can move stuff out of the way and really give myself more space. And I was like, okay, I should have moved stuff out of the way. Because you kind of the way it works is interesting. You kind of can see it in the trailer, but I don't feel like it. You have basically these lanterns, and the lanterns are almost like teleport points across the map. And
Yeah.
so you like, latch onto a lantern like that and it moves you to the lantern and then you kind of stay within the lantern's light. You can kind of move a little bit and turn around, but the idea is there are these points on the map that you kind of move to and everyone stays within those. You're not like freely walking around the map,
Yeah.
basically. And then going beyond that, it's like 3v3 very much like CS:GO bomb type thing. You've got a little thing that you take to a point when you're the attacking team. You have to put it in the little receptacle thing, and then it
Mm.
has 30 seconds you have to defend it, and then you kind of swap sides and whatever. And there's different rounds and that kind of thing. Very like it felt really fun. Everything felt like fun to pick up and clicky and kind of. I was impressed with how tactile everything felt. There's different classes which you start off with, I think 3, and there's more characters you can unlock. Interestingly, a cool little detail I liked was that each of the characters have different heights, and so when you select a different character, it moves you down to their height, which is better for hiding as certain
Oh, that's
characters
cool.
or according to the map or whatever. But it's interesting, and you can kind of build out a deck of spells. You can unlock more spells as you go along. I obviously didn't unlock anything because it's there's like several levels, and I played for like maybe an hour. But
Mm.
you start off with the basic kind of spells. There's like a tank, a healer, a attacker, and you can kind of choose some class specific spells. There's spells that everyone can use. You can have 2 on either wand. Your wand in your right hand, your left hand. The wands are essentially guns.
Yeah.
They like click like guns. They're like steampunk wands, and it is like super Harry Potter influence. Like I think
Yeah.
that's
Oh god. Yeah.
obviously intentional. It's almost surprising to me that it isn't like just a tie-in with Harry Potter, so they can the steampunk stuff almost feels like they're like then compensating to be like, but it's not Harry Potter because it's steampunk, but
Yeah.
everything else indicates that it's Harry Potter almost.
It's kind
Um,
of Fantastic Beastsy more than.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A little bit like that kind of new era Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am just kind of surprised that they didn't just like do a deal with Warner Brothers and tie it in. But I think when you got real people playing, it would be a lot of fun to play in this kind of 3v3. There's a lot of like strategy to spells. There are ones that curve, there are ones that like put up walls, there are ones that shoot big objects that suck spells into them and stop other people from shooting. You can disable the lanterns for certain people with spells that they can't teleport to certain lanterns.
Mm.
So it feels like there would be a lot of strategy and depth for people who really want to go into it. It really reminded me a lot of weirdly of Echo VR, not in like the gameplay, but just like the
Mm.
multiplayer aspect of like, oh, I think the people that really like this and want this kind of game will really enjoy it, and it'll probably have a healthy, I hope, healthy player base of people that love it because it felt like they'd done all the basics right to, you know. I just worry that also the only thing which is, it's 3v3 only. There's no kind of single player thing at all. Um,
Filling
and
up the
I
lobbies.
filling up the lobbies, and I also just wonder why there isn't like a 1v1 mode. Um, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a different kind of gameplay because then you're kind of just shooting spells at each other and stuff, and it's a whole
Yeah,
different
that's kind of
ballpark.
what they had
But
for the first game, obviously.
yeah, I guess it's exactly. So I guess it's kind of weird. It's but I'm excited to go back in and try it out with real people because that'll be the real test. The bots were kind of a bit like just head straight for the. You
Yeah.
could put a bomb down, they just kind of teleport immediately there and stand there dumbly defusing the bomb. And I was like, okay, I'm playing with bots.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the strategy plays out because I felt like the matches were over very quickly for me too. They are quick rounds, but I felt like they were over especially quickly because the bots were just a bit dumb.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It
but I was surprised. It was better than I was kind of expecting to. I was expecting to like it hugely, and I kind of came away like, oh, that's really fun.
it's one of those ones where I look at it and I'm like, I'm sure this is great. Like Wands was good.
Yeah,
Cortopia is a great studio that knows what they're doing. I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I'm not a multiplayer guy. So this is
yeah,
about as far away you could speak to me
yeah.
as VR
That's
games go, which is annoying because it's an
mhm,
entire genre that people like to develop for as well.
yeah.
But
Yeah, because I'm not huge on
I know what you
multiplayer,
mean.
but I am a Harry Potter guy, so it fed into the spells kind of thing I kind of enjoyed and the shooting of the
Yeah.
spells, and that's that side of it I liked. But I'm not huge on playing multiplayer games, especially in VR. So, but yeah, no,
I
I
think
think it
it
does the right things right
I think
so
it's one of
far.
those ones that definitely needs to probably come to the Pico Neo 3 as well as soon as possible.
Mm,
Probably PSVR 2 as well as soon as possible, and just have crossplay enabled, right?
yeah,
So that you
totally.
are just increasing the chances of there being a solid player base there
Yeah, and
all the time.
I'm sure if you were actually like a dedicated player too, there seemed like there was quite a few levels to work through. I mean, I'm pretty sure
Mm.
you get through it eventually in probably not a huge amount of time, but it looked like a good kind of start. I can totally see them it seems like it's set up so if it does well, they can be like, okay, we're doing seasons. There's going to be new spells. There's going to be skins, and you can see exactly where this would go if it was, if it's popular and people love it. It's got all the proper foundation for that kind of Fortnite era multiplayer with skins and also different spells and wands and stuff like that too. So yeah.
Cool. Well, that's the last game of half one of 2022.
That's it. Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago or last week, Harry, you put out a list of games coming in the next half of the year.
Yes,
and we're gonna run through a few of those and just talk about what we think about them.
Here. So the way I did the list is there's games that have confirmed dates. There's games that have 2022 dates. So just generic. It's coming out this year, and then there's ones that we don't know that could come out this year but don't. So the first on the list, which we just talked about, Wands Alliances, because it was written a couple of weeks ago. That's out. Then we've got Avail VR, the beta, July 1st, PSVR.
Yeah. Interesting. That's coming. Yeah, so that's coming PSVR only. Very Counter-Strike focused sort of shooter game. I don't know how that one's going to work out. Like, it seems like we have a lot of very good online shooters, especially on PC. Like, I feel like the Onward crowd has what they want. The Pavlov crowd have what they want, and there's contractors and everything else. This does seem to be very thoughtfully developed. But I don't know. Again, like the multiplayer thing doesn't. I played it. It's fun. It doesn't really speak to me.
I've watched the trailer and stuff, but I haven't played it. Does it do anything different to the other Counter-Strike like games? Is there a point of difference?
I think socially, it's got a lot of very cool stuff. The hub world has like a shooting range and like different like little sports you can play together and stuff. The actual game itself is that kind of mindless Counter-Strike, everyone running around and gunning each other. At least from what I played, but
is it,
in the trailers,
is it just like deathmatch stuff, or is it bomb?
I think they've got a couple of game modes in the beta, but deathmatch is certainly a big one, and they make it out to be a very tactical shooter. So the real test is going to be in if people actually play it like that, or it does end up being that run around just mindlessly gunning around sort of thing.
Then next, which we talked about it before, Kayak VR Mirage, July 12, PSVR. Looks cool. Looks like a good kayak game. Looks stunning.
Yeah, I think this is one of those ones where I played this, and it's harder to control than Phantom. It's definitely not as accessible, but there is a kind of magic to how authentic it feels combined with the visuals. And I do think lots of people are going to get a real big kick out of it. It's one of those things of, you are probably doing some of the best VR design out there right now, but is that necessarily what loads and loads of people are going to respond to, right?
How many people are going to flock to a kayak game?
Well, exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Which is a shame, because they've done an amazing job.
Really cool.
I don't think they could do any better.
But
we'll see how it goes.
Does it do the Boneworks at weight thing of like you've got to push through water almost? Like there's a head to the water?
Yeah, kind of. It's definitely it definitely helps holding on in the right places and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
But we'll see.
Then Mossbook 2, July 21st on Quest 2, which we talked about a fair bit. It's coming to Quest 2.
It's
sounds
coming
good.
to Book 2.
It's coming to Quest 2 before it even was announced at Quest 2. The Twilight Zone VR, July 14th. I got the dates mixed up slightly there, but yes, that's soon. That's very soon. That's like 2 weeks away. Far out, man.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and is that Quest? I've got Quest 2 here. Is it Quest 2 only? It must be.
It's Quest 2 only for now, but I think it's been announced at PSVR as well. So I think we'll see.
That's right. Well. Yeah. That's right. There's some on this that a PSVR 2 that are just like, I've just put Quest 2 because we don't know when PSVR 2 is out. So who knows if it's Nerf Ultimate Championship is next. There's a big gap actually. That's August 25th. So there's a good month and 2 weeks where we don't know what's happening. But that's Quest 2. That looks very cool actually. I'm keen on that.
A lot of multiplayer in this list so far, though, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Wands, Veil, this. I
think it looks cool, but it's with the same reservations I have of most multiplayer games, which is like, I don't know how the player base of that's going to go. And
Yeah,
I don't know. It felt like
and
for
the
a
other
little bit there was a period where people stopped putting out the multiplayer games because they were like, oh, I'm not sure if there's enough people to warrant this yet. And there was a good 6
yeah.
months to a year where there was less. And now it feels like everyone's like, oh, okay, there's a few more people here, so we're gonna just put them all out.
It definitely feels like this one could live on the strength of the brand, especially if it's a good game. But at the same
Yeah,
time, there was a flat screen Nerf game last year, and that was terrible.
wasn't
And I
there?
think it's
I didn't even hear of that.
yeah, and it's I
Yeah,
think it's like just gone the way of the dinosaurs already, basically.
I mean, you don't
Uh,
know. You know, I had a mother who was like, you can't play any video games with guns, but Nerf guns sometimes are the exception. So who knows? Maybe there's a
well, I
whole
think that
audience of kids who can't play Onward, but maybe their mum will let them play Nerf.
so it could exactly though it could sit
It could,
alongside
yeah.
Echo Arena and Gorilla Tag as the kind of next
The
thing, I
premium
guess.
game for underage children. Yes. This is the premium underage experience. So you want below 18-year-olds in your game, play Nerf.
Yeah.
Then the Chulas, which is just summer. It's just got a summer release date, so it could be any time, really. In early access on Quest. That looks fun, too. Hey, that's multiplayer
Yeah.
again, isn't it? That's the 4-player one.
That's a co-op though, co-op multiplayer.
Oh, yeah, okay. So slightly different, but still it relies on having other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but
It's
that looks fun. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not much
Walkabout
else on that
Mini
one.
Golf, Labyrinth DLC, Summer, Quest, PSVR.
Big one.
Yeah, big one. I don't play that much Mini Golf. Walkabout. I played it from time to time. I will be playing this 100%.
Cool. Yeah. This is going back to what we said earlier though. Like with the right format, you don't make a sequel. You just keep adding.
Yeah, totally.
And Walkabout's got that down.
And it better have.
100%.
I won't, but it better have the soundtrack. I want to hear that Dance Baby Dance song and give me a dancing David Bowie animatronic or something. Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna have that, but
shoot it through David Bowie's legs. Then Requisition VR early access in September.
Oh, cool.
PCVR.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that I think that game actually does have a lot of potential. The whole thing being you make weapons to kill zombies out of household items.
Yeah.
And kind of with the physicality there, maybe they're onto something, or maybe it's just going to be that very kind of flat screen approach of okay, you get the chair leg, you get a piece of tape, you put it at the end, and then you
put them near each other, and they just attach magically, and
yeah. How inventive you can be with that system will be how that game lives or dies, right?
Then a game I know we're both very experts on this topic and very excited for, NFL Pro Era in the fall, Quest 2 and PSVR.
During the NFL season, I think. Yeah,
honestly, I couldn't tell you. Could not tell you.
If you start, you have to have the Super Bowl at the start of the year, right? So they've got to play
it's true. That would be. I reckon that
before.
probably is lined up. Someone will correct us, but I reckon it's probably lined up with. My best knowledge makes me think that is vaguely lined up at the start of the NFL season, which would make a lot of sense.
Start of soccer season. That's what we. That's what we want. Start of the Masters golf tournament.
You're right. You're right. You have the Super Bowl is always like beginning of the year. So yeah, I think that if it's fall, that makes sense. Probably going to be like this. The season is starting now, and you can play it in VR right now.
Yeah, that's probably it.
And your Budweiser.
Wow, we really haven't seen that much from that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones where they like announced it with like a trailer that wasn't really gameplay, and they're like, and it's coming quite soon. And you kind of go, what's happening there? What is that? Does it look bad? Is it terrible? Are you just not telling us? I don't know. Aspire 2 in November, Quest 2. That looks quite interesting.
Co-op is.
I would argue looks more interesting than the first one from what I've seen. Not that I played the first one, but from the trailers and stuff, it looks better and more fun.
They're very ambitious with those games. A normal campaign and a co-op campaign in the kind of Portal 2 sense is like, wow, how are you going to pull this off?
But the co-op campaign does use the maps from the first one, right? Which to me...
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Kind of explains how they're doing that, because they're like, I guess they have to put so much work into the maps, like both design and building. They can just be like, oh, we're just going to make some changes to these to make them co-op missions. So that kind of makes sense to me. But yeah, and I also love the what do they call them? Like, it's not like shadows. There's some name for the different structures you can take on. You can be the little small thing
Oh,
in
the
the
frames.
big
The
thing.
frames.
The frames. That's what it wasn't like
Yeah.
shadows or structures. Yeah, frames. That looks cool.
Cool.
That's a cool mechanic. Excited for
Yeah,
that.
looking forward to that one.
And I also hope in the multiplayer one of you plays as the little one and one of the, a bit like the Portal thing, although you'd have differences in gameplay. I think that'd be fun. Among Us VR Holiday, Quest 2, PC VR, and of course PSVR 2 whenever that comes out.
I'm starting to
Yeah.
believe with Among Us.
You're
But
starting
I'm
to
starting to
believe.
get there and feel like it was a game that I needed to be nearer the launch of to be like interested in. Like, and
Yeah.
we're getting there now, and I'm starting to
Yeah,
think.
I think
this
it'll
is gonna
be fun
good.
if we get everyone in and have a game where we're all kind of just shouting at each other and killing each other. That'll be a lot of fun.
Arguably, the best timed VR release ever. I don't think you could think of a better time to launch a VR game, like that type of VR game than Christmas. Like, how many
Man.
people are going to get quests that Christmas
Imagine
and
the
just be like
download
straight there?
speeds for Among Us VR on the Quest store on December 26th and 25th. It's just going to be like, you'll be downloading that game specifically, and it's going to be going at like a megabyte a second, and all the kids will be like, Dad,
And imagine
why isn't Among Us loading?
Imagine the echoes across the landscape of the metaverse. Sus.
Yeah,
Disgusting.
and just like kids in their living rooms just bashing Christmas trees because they're pointing with their hands all the time. Then we're getting into more ambiguous dates here. Hellsweeper, Q4 2022, PCVR Quest 2. That looks very stylish. I'm liking the look
that's
of
been
that
a
one.
long time coming.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was no big fan of Sorrento, but lots of people were, and I'm ready to give it another shot with Hellsweeper for sure.
Yeah. Now these next ones are all just 2022 non-specific, so they literally could be out tomorrow. Knowing how things have been going, we could wake up and they could be like, "Congratulations, Bone Lab is here."
Here's Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, literally. So these have, but so far these are not the ones that don't have a date. They are like 2022, so they should come out. Delays, providing this year. Bone Lab is the first one on there. That's a weird one to me. I don't know when that's going to come out. When do you think?
I think it'll be like
holiday.
Novemberish time.
Yeah, in time.
Boneworks came out in like very late / very early. Very late November / very early December, and that just worked really well for them. And I think we'll see that.
Yeah, and I think it's not the kind of title that you want to put out like right on release, a bit like Among Us, where you put it on the box and you're like, selling headsets because it's there, but you want it to be available when people get it. You know what I mean? No one who doesn't know about VR is going to pick up a box and be like, what's Bone Lab? But you're going to want it to be there when they get it, and for the people who kind of know or in the know and know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's I'm keen for that. Very excited. Red Matter 2 as well this year on Quest 2.
Yeah.
Don't know. Man, there's so many. I'm looking at this list now. I'm like, when is all this coming out? Like, and are we going to know more than 4 days in advance?
Red Matter 2 will be a next week launch for sure.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to announce
It'll be
that way ahead of time.
Unassuming week in September, and they'll just be like, and this is now out tomorrow. It'll be like an Oculus blog post.
And turns out it's the same day as like Grand Theft Auto or something. And it's like, oh, well, we didn't tell you that, but don't worry
It'll be like blog post, Grand Theft Auto and Red Matter 2 available now on Quest 2.
The two most anticipated
games. They'll just kill Red Matter 2 so quickly. Yeah, it's funny because it's true. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution. Obviously, Quest 2, PCVR, and PSVR. I believe the original PSVR, right, as well, yeah. And PSVR 2, whenever that is a thing. So when is that coming out? These are some big games that I would not think they're all going to get stacked in like November, December-ish. So
yeah, I think.
But maybe.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a really busy November / December. I think most of the stuff we're talking about now wants a piece of the holiday pie, as they say, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Walking Dead comes out a bit earlier, because I feel like that's surely got to be slightly further along as well. Just because it's kind of coming from an existing game, and we've seen some of it, and I don't know. I feel like surely that'd be, but maybe not. Maybe it's November. I reckon it could be like October. What if it comes out like Halloween?
Halloween would be a great shout for it.
Yeah,
but there's got to be other things that will be coming for Halloween, right? Everyone tries to line up a spooky VR game for them.
Yeah, are there any other like horror things on this list? I don't really think so.
Well, there's The Exorcist.
The Exorcist,
but I guess I don't think that'll release this year now. I don't think we've heard anything about it in a long time.
No. Yeah. The next on my list is Gambit, Quest 2 PC VR.
Oh, cool. Very excited about that.
Yep.
Wish we'd seen more of it in that trailer we had at the showcase. Wish we would
Yeah.
get a better sense of if it's going to be a fully expansive payday type experience, but it's still got the potential to, so I'm very excited for it.
Then Killer Frequency, which we talked about last week as well. I think last week.
Cool.
Quest 2, obviously that's the Team 17 one. That looks cool.
Yep.
I imagine that'll be out at some point.
Again, trailer didn't give a lot away, but
do you think any of these so far will be delayed? Like, look, I hate to say it, but I know Bone Lab are probably aiming for that in November, December, but I guess it's been a while for them. They've been doing that for a while, so maybe not. But maybe I feel like some of this has got to be because it's kind of in that 2022 generic thing, and could
Bone Lab could afford to be delayed for sure. I don't think there's any way in hell that Among Us gets delayed at this point.
Oh no.
I think.
Also, I don't know. Maybe I'm undermining how simple things are, but it doesn't look like the kind of game that is like overly strenuous to develop. I would hope that it's like, you know what I mean, compared to something like Bone Lab.
Graphically looks a little phoned in, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and it's kind of like you're adapting the original game, which isn't like super complicated. What's next on the list? The Last Worker, Quest 2.
Excited about that.
Yep.
If you have a PC, you can just play the flat screen version of that, the demo for it right now.
Oh, there you go.
And I intend to at some point.
Yep. Peaky Blinders, The King's Ransom, Quest 2 PCVR.
Why haven't we seen anything from that yet? That might be a delayed game.
I reckon that's a good candidate because that trailer was so far from gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't even like hints of gameplay. Even like Gambit and stuff, you see evidence of gameplay.
Yeah, and I've only ever heard them talk about it very ambiguously so far. So it's like, is this actually a game?
It's true. It's always kind of like, it'll be like a story thing, and you can influence stuff. And it's like, what are you actually talking about? Am I walking around? Am I watching a movie? That's What the Bat? That won't be delayed. I'm sure that'll be. I reckon that'll be out this year. That looks fun.
Yeah.
Ziggy's Cosmic Adventure. We've seen lots about that as well. You've played some of that.
Yeah. Very excited to see how that shapes up.
I think that would be soon. I reckon, surely.
They've always said fall, so I would say that's a September/October game.
Yep. Propagation Paradise Hotel. They confirmed that was coming this year for Quest 2. I think other platforms at some point. But I think Quest 2 is the only one that's been confirmed for this year.
That'll be a Halloween release, right? That's what they're trying for.
Yeah, that's a good point. That'd be a good one. It'd be cool if we got a couple of things around Halloween, like, October month, spooky month.
Yep.
Separate them a bit. That'd be fun.
I think that one's a solid bet for Halloween.
Yeah. Broken Edge, Quest 2 PCVR.
Ooh, yeah, that's this year. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
More multiplayer, but the kind of multiplayer that I'm a bit more interested in.
Yeah, I'm slightly more interested in, like, I just need to find a match with someone else kind of multiplayer. Yeah. One multiplayer game I played a fair bit of, actually. Not a fair bit of, but a bit of this year was Blast On with the pass-through mode, which I never played before pass-through. Once it had pass-through, it kind of changed it for me. I was like, I can see, I can grab things without worrying. That was a lot of fun. And that was fun, too, because you just kind of could always find a match. There was always someone to play against pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it had a good system for, like, you can play against a bot, but it will just kick you out of that game and put you into a game with a real person.
Yeah.
And it was never that long. I thought they could do a similar thing, check in with the bot, check in with the person.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Hubris PCVR looks stunning.
Don't know how it's going to play, how long it'll be. Yeah. Very cautious about
anything besides the graphics. Yeah.
Yeah.
But looks great.
Basically. Yeah.
Dyschronia Chronos Alternate Quest 2. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one of those ones that's just probably very good, but I think is for a certain type of fan. But it definitely appeals to me more than the last two games in the series did. Like Tokyo Chronos was just so wordy, and Orc was like getting better, but still quite wordy. And this seems to have a lot more focus on actual gameplay. So I'm definitely interested in checking it out, and I hope it's good. We'll see.
Yeah. Paranormal Hunter.
Is that not out yet?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, I googled all of this stuff before I was
you're right.
Steam stuff, so I don't think so. No.
That was meant to be an early Because we
Yeah,
had that at the showcase in December, and that was meant to be an
there's a
early
few
2022 game.
there's a few on here that like were meant to be, and some that even had not like updated their, it was like
Yeah.
you went on and it was like still saying like early 2022 or whatever, and you're like, well, we're halfway through the year. That's not happening.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
don't know what to think of that one, but again, you could do an October release for that.
Yeah, true. And then Walkabout Mini Golf Mist DLC, which I'm not a
Cool.
Mist
Also very
person,
cool.
but I know like Ian will love that and will be there like minute
Ian's
one,
going to want
day
to write
one.
like a million articles about that.
Yeah, he'll be like, here's my 6,000 word appraisal of Mist DLC and Walkabout. No, I mean I'm not a Mist person, so but happy for the Mist fans. You know what they should do next? I just had a great idea because I was like, I'm not a Mist fan. I am a Portal fan. Give me an Aperture Labs mini golf course,
Oh
because
my god,
Valve would
that'd
do
be
that too.
amazing, wouldn't it?
Like Valve is so they went to Valve and they were like, hey, we're making a mini golf course. I can just see Valve being like, ooh, yeah, I guess so. Like Gabe just kind of being like, sign it off,
Yeah.
because they kind of do weird things like that Portal
they did the bridge
constructor
thing.
game and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
do it. Give me a with portals.
Yeah, exactly. That could be amazing.
Oh, could be so good. Do that. Someone send me a check for that. For that idea. Tifa God coming out of early access, I think on PCVR only.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I guess
Very
cool.
experimental, but very cool.
Yeah. Trial by Ting, which we've heard nothing of since last year. So
yeah, they're kind of active on social media, so I think it's still happening.
Still happening. Yeah, I remember watching the trailer for that last year and being like,
roadblocks,
looks
right?
fun. Yeah. So
yeah.
That which is only PCVR. Last I checked, I've got here PCVR. So surprised. Maybe things are taking longer because they're adding other platforms.
Oh yeah, good point. It's definitely a great candidate for that, isn't it?
Yeah, so that could be one of those things
there's a
where
good
they've just gone
chance it's gonna
quiet
Quest
to
2
kind
as
of
well.
just also add in Quest 2 or PSVR, and they're going to release them all at the same time.
Yeah.
I like that we're starting to see less things do staggered releases and more people are aiming for like it's out and everything now.
Yeah,
At least it feels a little bit like that way. Ultimex, aka Rocket League with robots, PCVR. That looks fun.
I always say there's two resolution games: the resolution games that make the games I'm interested in, and the ones I'm not that interested in. And this is the latter camp for sure.
This is not.
I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure it'll be very polished, but it's just esports arena stuff. Yeah, no.
Yeah. That's the kind of multiplayer game I think neither of us are interested in. Like,
yeah.
I also I'm very interested in Echo VR. I just have no room to play it comfortably. Like, I really want like a 5x5 meter room with nothing in it to run around and play that game. And then I'd probably play a lot more of it, but I just don't have that space at the moment, so I'm not doing it. But yeah. Ruinsmagus, which actually now does have a release date, as we talked about before, which it didn't at the time. So there we go. And Vertigo 2 PCVR. You got any thoughts on that? I looked at the trailer again today of that.
So I follow the developer Zach. He hasn't tweeted about it in a while, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this one slip to 2023. We had a great trailer for it in the showcase in December, but we wasn't anything working for this showcase. So I feel like there's probably under the hood for a bit longer, right?
Yep. And then the last one on this 2022 list is The Exorcist Legion VR 2 Quest 2.
Also feel like that's probably, if I don't think it'll make, it could make Halloween, but I don't think it will.
Which studio is doing that again? I can't remember.
So this is the same studio as Exorcist. So
yes, but which one? Is that?
Sorry, as Twilight Zone. So
right, that's right. Yes, so it feels like they're working on that, right? And that's what we've seen more of. So you would think.
Yeah, and it's out in a couple of weeks. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
So that's a solid list of games, and it's going to be hopefully it'll be a busy second half of the year. But again, it's just that thing we always talk about. What of that giant list we just read out? Only 10 of them had actual release dates.
Yeah,
and it would be really good to know what's coming when.
Of just things. I mean, there's also a few that we don't have any confirmed window for, but could hypothetically come out this year. So there's the obvious ones like Assassin's Creed VR, which I feel like that's actually not a bad candidate for kind of somewhat surprise dropping towards the end of the year around holiday. I don't know. What do you think?
You could make a big fuss of it at Oculus
at
Connect or
Connect.
Facebook Meta Connect,
Yeah, yeah,
and then be like, yeah, by the way, it's out in a month.
yeah,
Kind of did that
exactly.
with Resident Evil, didn't they? Like it was announced really early in the year, heard
Yeah,
nothing. Then it was like, oh,
yeah.
by the way,
I
in
feel like there's
2 weeks.
only gonna be one of those. Like they'll pick a game to do that with, and it's either that or the other one is obviously GTA. But I feel like Assassin's Creed is definitely the more likely. I don't think
I
GTA
just don't
is.
think we're going to hear anything else about GTA this year.
Oh, it's just
Eh,
so frustrating to have got like that weird announcement and then just
yeah,
such silence.
maybe
I don't know.
Meta shouldn't be doing one showcase a year. I mean, don't do this because we do a showcase, but they should be doing several showcases
Yeah,
a year, really.
yeah. Um, the other one is Ghostbusters VR. This is kind of a weird one because there was that April Meta showcase
Oh
where
yeah,
they announced it, and they were like, everything in this showcase comes out, and the wording. We talked about this on the show when we did it, and we couldn't remember the exact wording. I looked it up later. The wording was like within a year, so not within the year, but like a year
right.
from the showcase. So it implies, of course, it was also like things could be delayed, but it
Yeah,
implies that Ghostbusters is coming out sometime between now and next April. So it could
maybe
be
a
this year.
PSVR 2 launch title, maybe.
Yeah, it could. It's interesting. It could, if PSVR 2 gets bumped to like, I don't know, February, March or whatever, and then it could just come
Yeah,
out and everything, including that, which I feel like is probably likely.
yeah,
Um, then, of course, Horizon Call of the Mountain. I mean, like, that's not coming out this year, but hypothetically, it's
yeah.
not been not confirmed for this year.
True.
But much like PSVR 2, it's like, well, it could come out this year, and it's just not at this point. We kind of know that.
Yeah,
Same goes for like I've got Resident Evil VR, our 8 VR on this, and other PSVR 2 titles. It's the same thing. They could come out whenever the headset comes out. So hypothetically this year, but actually we know that's not happening.
yeah. There's no way.
Um,
There's no way at this point.
no, no.
Sony would have said if it was coming out in 2022. Sony would have said 2022 by now.
Yeah. Because it's true. It's June, I guess. Yeah, or July basically. Then as we mentioned, Grand Theft Auto. Don't think that's coming out this year. Heli Squad Covert Operations, which was announced without a release date at the showcase, like a
Oh
week or
yeah,
two
that was
ago.
really.
So like,
I love doing release date teasers, but they were like, "What year is it coming out? We're not going to tell you." Oh,
yeah.
So is it
So
like this year or
so
next? Like,
could be because and weirdly though, the reason I think I also put it on here is that this studio has kind of surprised me in the past with like announcing
oh,
like they
true.
announced the sequel to Warplanes and they were like it's going to come out at some point. I'm pretty sure they didn't put a year on it either. And then like
Yeah,
2 weeks later they were like it's in early access. Go get it. The full
yeah.
game's there. And everyone was like, "What?"
I think that's one like just scrolling through Steam. I was like, "Wait, what?
Yeah, it's here.
Where did this
Yeah.
come from?"
So
Yeah,
I feel like it could be the same thing of like in October they're just like, "Oh, and here is an entire helicopter game. Go get it. It's in early
yeah.
access." This is a funny one. Onward 2. This is like my favorite one that we've heard nothing of just
Oh
because
my
Mark
god, yeah.
leaked it
What the hell, man?
and that's just too funny because it was just that comment. It wasn't even like his post. He was just like, "Yeah, we're working on Onward 2." And
Why don't they just do a teaser trailer for that? Like the Hella Squad thing at our showcase. They should have just done that at the show.
yeah, but we only know because of Mark's comment, and so I guess hypothetically it could just come out this year, but we don't even know the game technically exists yet. It's just we
Yeah.
do because Mark said it, but like otherwise we don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be it. And the last one
That's
is
crazy.
Splinter Cell VR, which is not coming out this year, but hypothetically again.
We're not hearing about that until
Yeah,
like
but it
next year at
hypothetically
the very
could
earliest.
because we haven't, it's not confirmed. But yeah, no, it's not. So that's pretty much the list. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where this all fits. Frankly, like
I think
because a lot of those
yeah,
were
I
like,
think,
oh, they all come out November, December, and then it's just to be super packed November, December. But
I
the kind of
definitely think
middle
we're in,
stuff,
like,
like Broken Edge, I'm like, where does that go? Like
yeah. I definitely think we're in for a really quiet July
couple of months.
and August, right?
Yeah.
And I guess maybe one question is, does Meta want any of this stuff for Cambria launch? Like, obviously, it's not a gaming headset, but is any of
Yeah.
this going to specifically speak to some of Cambria's features? Like, will it have Cambria exclusive
Yeah.
features that they want to push?
Play Assassin's Creed and mix pasta in your house.
It's just Assassin's Creed is actually just a full-on Cambria exclusive, and the internet just absolutely explodes.
GTA is only available on a over $1,000 Cambria headset, and you can play it in your own city in mixed reality and just walk through and pretend you're in real GTA, and the papers will go crazy. Yeah, the thing that gets me is like the stuff, like I said, like Broken Edge, some of those kind of like, not the huge like IPs or hitters. I'm kind of like, where do they go? Because if they don't release, like if all of this kind of comes out at the end of the year, I feel like a lot of it's going to get overshadowed by some of those huge things, like the Red Matter thing we were joking about. You know, if stuff like Red Matter, Broken Age pops up in like early December, and Among Us and Walking Dead and Assassin's
you're
Creed
right.
just launched, it's kind of like that stuff's just going to get shoved to the side quickly.
There's enough big stuff that the window for those other games is kind of running out now.
But then again, closing already almost, and it's like it's more like I'm not sure how many of those games are ready to come out in the next like 4 months.
Yeah, true.
Which means that unless they get delayed, they're gonna
The other thing about cracking it is maybe this is a topic for another show, but like saying that I don't think Mother Gunship, based on the number of reviews, has probably sold very well. I don't think Tentacular sold very well.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're getting to a point where the Quest Gold Rush is over as well, just like the Switch Gold Rush ended at some point. And it's going to become a lot harder to make money on the platform.
Part of me just feels like part of this has got to be the weird promotion, like or lack of promotion, or skit. Like Tentacular is a good example where it's like we both really enjoyed that game, but I just feel like people didn't even know it was coming, and then it just kind of came out of nowhere and happened. And I'm just kind of like, why? Like you said, let's say they're doing 3 or 4 showcases a year or whatever. It's like there could be a teaser trailer, then you could have a gameplay deep dive for 10 minutes that so people actually get what the game's about. It just feels like there's a better pipeline to be pushing some of this like mid-tier stuff out and giving it
at Upload, we don't, marketing is not our thing. We are not marketers.
No.
But we've probably given Tentacular more publicity than anything else, and not in a very like, oh, this game deserves it and we're best friends and we should do something. It's just kind of like by writing about it. That's probably
it's because you think about games like I think a good example at the moment is like for flat screen games, it's like that game Stray with the cat, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like I guess mid-tier. I don't even know who the studio is, but you know what I mean? It's not a huge hitter, but it's kind of been at all these showcases for the last year and a half or so that I know about it, even if I'm not going to play it, but I know it is coming. Everyone's kind of aware of it, and it's got a kind of gimmicky thing in the cat so that it's kind of markets itself in that way too. But to me, it's like Tentacular is a game like that, where I'm like, why hasn't there been this kind of, over a year kind of feed of stuff to make people aware that it's a thing, so when it comes out, it's not just like a week in advance and it's there and you're like, oh, whatever. It feels like there's way more space for stuff like that where you're kind of slowly giving some gameplay, giving some teasers. And I think with smaller games is important also. We do not get like 10-minute or 5-minute gameplay, just straight gameplay kind of videos. It's always like trailers, where I think have their place, but I don't know. I wish we had more trailers for a lot of this stuff where it's just like, and now we're going to play the game for 10 minutes. You can watch it and decide if you like it and if it's your type of game. And you can get a better sense of what it's about. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's it's a busy second half of the year. It's a random second half of the year. It's going to be stumbling along as always, and seeing where we land.
So vague still. That's the
I mean, the big thing
could happen.
Yeah, the big thing as well is going to be that whenever that PlayStation showcase happens, it gives us an idea of
like here's 30 minutes exclusively on PSVR 2.
Yeah, exactly, and that'll be huge. But that's a good place to leave it for this week. Very much looking forward to all of that stuff coming up. We will of course be around to talk about all of it. Next week we'll be back. I will probably be reviewing Ruinsmagus. Maybe you want to review Thief Simulator or something. Who knows? And Ian and Heaney will be back on Tuesday with the download. As always, many things happening in between there and then. But it's been a fun hour. Thanks for being here, Harry.
Thank you for having me. As always, thanks guys. Appreciate it. What a lovely episode of Looking Forward.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.